No matter who you are, you probably have a few go-to toppings you like to add to your favorite dishes. Whether it be a delicious jam for pancakes or a spicy hot sauce to slather onto a slab of ribs. Luckily for foodies worldwide, entrepreneur Ashley Rouse knows the power of sweet and savory condiments. The culinary school trained chef created her own brand, Trade Street Jam Co. Creates fruit forward and clean tasting vegan jams that are low in sugar and high in flavor. Here, the CEO and founder shares how her vision for her business came to life, the highs and lows of entrepreneurship, and why all founders need therapy. So you moved to Atlanta. We'd like you to just take us back a bit and just tell us more about your story and who you are. We know that you're a chef, but what really inspired you to get into cooking?
Just the whole culinary world is often glamorized, right, in movies and on TV. And there's this show, The Bear, that everyone's like watching, and the main character, Carmi, he's like super good looking. And I saw something on Instagram, some meme, and it was like, look, guys, I know Carmi is sexy, but dating a chef is not where it's at. Like, it is not cool. And like, I just thought it was funny because I can relate to that. So life was just crazy. I was working like 10 to 16-hour days, standing on my feet the entire time, not getting a break, eating standing up, working every single weekend, every single night, every single holiday, Thanksgiving, Christmas. And I think like when you're young, sometimes you don't realize, right? You're just in it and you're like, oh, like this is, like I'm working my way up and this is what I'm doing. But over time, over the years, I started to notice that like I was never off when my friends were off. And like, I don't know, lover, like I want to be with like my people, like my tribe. That's how I am. I'm kind of introverted, so I just like want my people around. And I just noticed that like they never were because they weren't off when I was off. And I was in Charlotte, and my mom, who I was closest to, was in Indiana, which is kind of where I grew up. And so I always had to travel if I wanted to go see her, and I never knew my off days in advance. They were always different every week. Like I couldn't go see her as often as I'd like to, and it just was like crazy chaotic time. I think the only blessing that came out of it was that I didn't realize how crazy it was so much while I was in it. It was more like I got to look back and remember that time.
Yeah. What was that moment like when you said to yourself, I can't do this anymore and live life like this because it's not good or healthy for me? What was that moment like?
It was hard because I was fed up by then. It's not like
Mm,
early on, I was like, "Oh, maybe I don't wanna do this." It was like I did it, I did it, I did it, and then I was like, Wait a minute, I can't do this anymore." And I was so fed up, and I also had a lot of shitty jobs, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't love my boss at the time, maybe some of my coworkers weren't the best. It's also hard to navigate, like, the workspace when you're young. You just don't know, like, you don't know the way things are supposed to be. Certain people say things to you, and you don't know how to navigate that. So, I really felt like I was just fed up. And I remember my mom bought me this book that was like 100 careers in culinary arts, and it like literally changed my life because I didn't know what else I could do other than work in the kitchen, right? So I was kind of down because I was just like, I got this like super expensive culinary degree, and like, what am I going to do? And that just opened my eyes to like food journalism and like just all these like different things you could do and with that degree, and that helped.
so it sounds like burnout was kind of like your jump start, yep, into a different career. So you're like, hey, over this. By the way, it sounds like a blog title or something. Would you say 100 careers in culinary? What was that? What was that you
Yeah,
mentioned?
I think that was the name of it. It was like 100 careers in
Oh,
culinary arts.
okay, so it is an A. All right, I'm like, I like that. That's good. Yeah, I'm like, I would read that. Yo, that's cool. Okay, so that really inspired you to say, hey, I want something different. But that was such a leap from, hey, I want something different into ownership is a huge leap. So, what exactly was that journey like to actually forming, the company?
I mean, I don't think there was ever like this huge breakthrough that was like, "Oh, I want to own a business." I did have a small business before the jam company. I've been like a seamstress for years, so I was like, it's called Urban Mondays, and I was like doing like custom alterations and things like that. And I kind of thought that's what I wanted to do. It kind of like got big locally, and I really enjoyed it. I don't know. I think that kind of like opened up my eyes to entrepreneurship. But again, like I never was like, "Oh, I'll be able to quit my job one day and do this full time." Like, I think I had the thoughts, but that's always like, as an entrepreneur or like a budding entrepreneur, that's always like such a daunting thought. Like, for me, anyways, I was never one of those people who's like, I'm going to do this. Like, I wish that was my like story, but it wasn't. Like, I don't know if I had the confidence. I just always thought of everything as like a side hustle. I was a big side hustle person. Like, I need something to do outside of work, keep me busy, bring in some extra money, and keep me happy because like I said, as the years went on, I just like really wasn't happy or fulfilled in my 9 to 5, which was not at all a 9 to 5 at the time. Again, nights and weekends and long hours. But you know what I mean? In my main job, I just was very unfulfilled.
And I think too, more of our generation at this time are we're more open to kind of pivoting when things aren't working versus sticking and staying into something that we're just not fulfilled in. And I love that you actually value happiness. That took a long time, I think, for me to really hone in on and embrace that it's important in life to be fulfilled and happy versus going after just my career.
Yeah, and that's what I
Um,
mean. Like, I think it took me a while. Like, that's one of the things that kind of sucks about being young is like you just don't know.
yeah.
I think I knew it, but I didn't know what to do about it. You know what I mean? And I couldn't quite put my finger on it. And our generation now, I feel like there's so much around mental health and happiness and, like shutting down grind culture and all that. But like back then, I don't think it was as prevalent. I just knew that like I wasn't that happy and I did have to pivot, but it took me much longer than it took me like later on in my career or like would take me now if I was like, I'm not happy. I got to move over to this.
Yeah, it's really interesting to hear like firsthand what the career of a chef is like because like you were saying like there's movies, there's TV shows like the one that's really popular right now, but I never realized like just how difficult it is and like the crazy hours and the training and things like that. And obviously, like the movies are different from real life, but that was like the only exposure I'd
Yeah.
had. So it's really interesting to hear, what it leads to and how it impacted your relationships. And I'm wondering before we even dive into like Trade Street and, your products and what you were creating at the beginning, like if there was anything you were hearing from your support system that you felt distanced from because of this work and being really involved in it, where they were like, hey, like you need to find some balance or you're like getting really burnt out and we can see it, like was it anything like that or was it more of like an internal realization for you?
Both. I mean, I'm very vocal. If I feel something, like my immediate circle, they're gonna know. Like they're gonna know it right away. So it's not something that I like internalize. Like I literally sat in my car and cried before going into work and would like call my mom, like crying. And she's like, baby, it's okay. Like we're gonna find something else. Like if you don't like it here, let's go. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I don't. This is like a prestigious place to be at, though. Like And she's like, but that's okay. Like if you don't love it, then like let. So like they didn't have a choice but to like support it and like try to help me through it because I gave them so much, if that makes sense. Like I poured so much. Like I'm very like transparent and I'm just going to share so much. Like I share on social. So I share with the people closest to me. I'm giving them a lot and all I think of it on my end is like I have all this on the inside. I got to let it out. Like I got to give it to you. But what I don't think of is the other person's perspective, which is like if they love me so much, then that's so heavy for them to carry. My mom's like was like so down because I was like so down the past like I've talked about this on social, but like the past 8 months have just been so hard on my mental health. Never felt like this in my life. And my mom has like been down and I'm like, what's wrong with you? And I like had to realize like, oh my God, I have kids. I could imagine if my kid was like depressed, I would be like a wreck. Like, what can I do? And so like I don't know, a long-winded version, but I say that to say like I just pour out a lot, especially to the people I love the most. And so they always support me. I probably should pull back at some point, but I'm just like a sharer. I gotta let it out. I can't hold it in.
I think that's your nature, and I think you do a really great job of embracing it. I follow your All Founders Need Therapy series, and man, you want to talk about just transparency and someone being vulnerable. I appreciate it so much because the reason why Isha and I started this podcast was because we felt very lost as founders, and we didn't feel like we had a tribe, no one to really talk to about the real things we were facing, that it wasn't just glamorized when, we had a win. So tell us more about how entrepreneurship has had, extremely high highs for you and, some lows.
I mean, that's just it. It's literally a roller coaster, right? And everything in life ebbs and flows, but with entrepreneurship, it's more than an ebb and a flow, right? Like you said, it's such high highs. I mean, like last week we were on CBS. I sat down with Gail King and was like kikiing with her, you know what I mean? And like DMing Nate Burleson, like literal high highs. But then like the lowest of lows, like we're not just talking about like stress, literal depression that I've never felt before, like literal burnout where I feel like people are like, I'm burnout, I'm tired. Like, no, burnout where it means like exhaustion, just anxiety. Like, it was so bad at one point that I couldn't work. And like, I don't know what that's like. I've always just been like, I don't know if a workaholic's the right word, but like I pour myself into like what I take pride in my job, whatever that is. Even if I was hating my job back in the day, like you wouldn't know it on the outside because like I take pride in my job and I work hard. And I mean, there was some months there where like I literally couldn't sit down at my desk and answer an email. And emails were piling up and I would answer 2 and it would feel like I had answered 100 for a couple hours. I'm like getting like, whew, just thinking of that feeling. It was like dread. You know what I mean? You go from, I mean, like that was just a little while ago that I felt that. And then last week I'm on CBS and so like one of the things you have to do with entrepreneurship is try never to get too high or too low. And I think that has to be the goal, right? Like when you get these huge wins, like celebrate the wins, but then like you have to get back to work and like figure out what's next, right? And just like keep your head down and stay humble. And then like, look, it's hard. Entrepreneurship's hard. It doesn't mean don't feel the feels, but like you have to learn to be comfortable with being uncomfortable in some situations, right? I know this is going to be uncomfortable. Growth is uncomfortable, but that's what I want is growth. So like not letting that get you too down and trying to stay in the middle.
Yeah, I think that idea of just trying to, stay in this middle ground place where you're just taking things one day at a
Mm,
time or maybe even 1 hour at a time. I know when I felt like I was approaching real burnout, I might have even been burnt out, but I just wasn't
probably
like
were.
accepting it. Like it was very much a similar feeling of I feel like I can't do anything. Like I feel like I'm not moving anywhere
Oh,
because I physically can't move. Like I'm just that down. And so I understand that feeling. Like, and it's really hard, like you said, when you're so used to being this person who is like doing their best and excelling and really putting their all in. And then suddenly your body's like literally stopping you, your body and your mind at the same time. And it's like crazy, crazy feeling. And I think the worst part is, like you were saying, a lot of people use that term very lightly these days. Like, I am just burnt out, but it's like an
yeah,
actual,
it is.
condition. Like, you
Yeah, and
are
I'm not like,
actually,
downplaying any like
yeah,
just saying I'm burnout. Like I get that. Like I'm burnout, I'm tired. I don't want
yeah.
to do this anymore. Like I get that. To your point, it's almost like have you ever used the word depressed before, but you like may not really have been depressed? Like you probably wouldn't know unless you really got there at a later point, but like you ever like this is making me depressed. But depression is a real thing that people like take medication for. You know what I mean? That's what it is. So it doesn't mean you weren't down or sad. You said it best, like when your body won't respond, like you know it's real. There were days where I couldn't get off the couch. And I just was like, the one thing I had was grace with myself. And I'm like so proud of myself because everyone says have grace, and it's hard to do. But I actually had grace with myself because I couldn't do anything else. And I was like, you can't beat yourself up. You know you. And you know, if something is stopping you from getting up and working, then this is serious. And there were days where I would like get up, put on workout clothes, like get the kids out for daycare. And then when they left with my husband, get on the couch and like put the covers over me and just go back to sleep for like 2 hours. And I'm just like, who are you? It's like 9:30 in the morning. Like, why are you exhausted?
I think we're also interested to know, like, if you're reflecting back on your younger self and feeling this feeling of just being really done with the whole, chef thing, being really overworked and not having as much exposure to your loved ones as you needed. Comparing that self to you now, how do you think you approach, these low lows?
I mean, I guess with a bit more maturity, but I feel like I have more resources now, or I understand the resources now, right? Like therapy is a thing. Like I didn't even know what therapy was back then. Being able to pivot, you talked about that. I'm a little bit, more flexible now where I'm just like, okay, this isn't working. Like this is what I'm going to do. And the maturity piece of it is like facing it up front, not like kind of running from it. I feel like then I was like running from it, right? Like in the sense that I was going to work every day and still doing it, even though I was miserable. That it's funny. I was going into it, but I was running from the problem by still going every day. Whereas now I make changes. Like I put an out of office that was just like, I Googled it, right? Because I was like, this is like the millennial era. What are these creative ways to say that like I can't answer your emails right now? And so I had this out of office. I was like, email eating you alive? Me too. And it was just like, I'm trying my best. I'll get back to you in like, I don't know, it was like 72 hours or whatever it was. But like, I was scared at first to put that on. I was like, should I put this on? Like, what if my like investors see this? And I was like, bitch, put this on. Like, and literally the moment I hit save, it was like, you know what I mean? Like, it was just like, the emails aren't going to stop coming in, but like I need every single person that sends me an email, whether it be spam or all the way up to like an investor. Like, I need you to know that I don't have the mental capacity to get back to you for like a few days. So just know that. Do with it what you want. You can keep emailing me and bugging me, or you can leave me the hell alone. But like either way, I need to be transparent with you about what's going on with me. And if I don't share that, you're never gonna know. And you're gonna hit me with the just bumping this to the top of your inbox. And I'm like, I fucking saw it. I saw it. You don't need to bump it because I saw it. I just ignored it because I can't process. Do you know what I mean? I can't process. And like honestly, it's like if you're being honest with yourself, you probably can't either. Like I've talked to so many people that are like, I can't deal with emails. So like if you're being honest with yourself and just stop with the grind culture, you'll realize that like this ain't where it's at.
Yep. Man, I feel like your secret sauce is like you just being your authentic self. Like, you know how some people are trying to figure it out, or how do you get in rooms? How do you network? And I think, though, at least the way I've connected to you most, and I'm so very happy that I get to meet you today and just kick it and talk. But it was really through you just being authentic. So, what inspired that moment for you where you said, you know what, I'm going to create, All Founders Need Therapy series and community essentially is what you've created for founders.
Yeah, so yes to being authentic. I think, like I said, that's always how I've been. It's not anything I've tried to do. It's just like how I was raised. Like my mom's always been like, be honest, like let's talk about it, like whatever. So I just am that. It's great that people receive it well because like that's what they're gonna get either way. So it's really nice that like people were saying like we love you being vulnerable and things like that because I just don't know any other way. But I started All Founders Need Therapy because I read it somewhere, all founders need therapy, blah blah, and it hit me like a ton of bricks because I've done therapy on and off for a little bit. I haven't like dabbled in it for years by any means. I think I've done it a couple times for a few months, but I find therapy in other ways, and one of them is sharing on social media. But I think for me, when I read that, it just hit me because I was like, we all need some form of therapy. We have to talk about it. You can't hold the weight of the world on you. Like, you have to share it with someone. It doesn't matter who or how. Like, you have to just let it out, or you will hold it in until you literally have physical ailments. And then also at the same time, the reason why I've been experiencing all of this, depression, anxiety, burnout, stress is because the business just hasn't been doing well. We talk about this, but my business hasn't been doing well for like the past 8 months. And that out of nowhere felt like too much to handle. Right. It just hit me where it was like, I can't handle the idea of this not working. What will I do? I can't go back to work. Work was miserable, right? I can't go back to that. And so like the thought of that failing just like caused all of these feelings. So I was like, I need to do something to raise money for the business because we need money and investment's not happening, right? We're not getting investors. So on one side, I'm like thinking I need to do some kind of fundraiser and try to like bring in money. And on the other hand, around the same time, I read this thing that says all founders need therapy. And it hit me. I created this design. That's one of the things that brings me joy to create, and I haven't been able to do for months. But in that moment, I could create. And so it felt good. And I was like, oh, I should sell merch like on the site. And then I was like, oh, fundraiser, merch. It's funny because I talked to a few people who are kind of like in the marketing space, and they were just like, I don't know, like you're not going to reach a lot of people if you just make it about founders. I don't know if it's going to have the reach you want. And so we went back and forth for a few weeks. And then I was like, you know what? If we don't use founders, I don't even want to do it because it wasn't hitting the same. You know what I mean? I'm a mom and I'm all these other things too. But the founders, like nothing hit the same. So I was like, I'm not even going to do it. And then like 2 weeks later, I just woke up and I was like, no, this is happening. It's been a few weeks. It's on my heart. So I launched it.
We love the campaign, and like we will definitely be plugging it actually today right after the episode on our social media. And we were saying like we want to make sure we get our whole community of founders who've been on the podcast involved with this, because it is so important that we just come together and lift each other up. And that's also part of why we started this. We were like, we just want a community, one, like Dom said, that we can talk to about real things and hopefully have the other person understand because they've maybe been through something similar. And then two, just when the hard times are happening, like what can we do to come together and just collaborate on something? And I think hopefully we can bring you some more, traction on everything that you're trying to sell because your products are so amazing.
I appreciate that. I think like it's definitely something I envision being a movement, right? Like we want to sell t-shirts, we need to survive as a company, but I just like I want it to be a movement because like we need each other. And I've talked to so many founders who just like don't feel like they have anyone. Sometimes the people closest to you may not understand it. Sometimes you're scared to reach out to other founders because you think like their business is too big. And like I've reached out to so many people, I'm like, they're just gonna have to say no, but so many of them say yes. So I just want to help like build a community. I have big dreams. Like I want to sell the company for $100 million, and like the goal is like to be able to use some of that money to give back, like to create scholarships and grants and like do dope shit for women, for people of color, like for small business owners, like do dope shit for them.
I think you should do it. I think you should grab the name for the podcast. I think with your personality, people gravitate towards you. I'm sure you had experiences where, you're just minding your business and somebody starts talking to you, or I just feel like that's your aura. And I think this confirms you have influence. So I think you should go for it. I think live events would be beautiful. It's like focus on mental health. You could maybe host that in the summer or something. Atlanta always has something cool going on, but I think that you should trust your gut and host the events or create more merch. I think you should trust your gut and you should go for it.
Y'all better not gas me up today. Y'all got me feeling
Yeah.
good. Like I can do
Nah.
anything.
No, you should. I'm not just saying it. I honestly think it's really for a reason that it dropped on your spirit. And then also
Yeah.
that you have the ability to be so transparent and vulnerable, because that's not something that founders have a lot of times. You just don't feel like you can just openly say like, "Hey, I am in the red and I've been in red for months now." Because of what our society cultivates oftentimes is our wins, our highs. It's always on high. That is
You know what? That's such an important thing because, like, two things. One, on Instagram, people will share what they want to share, right? And they'll share the wins, even if not on purpose. It's a habit to share the good things and maybe not share the bad things. And I think that's a lot. And then also, a lot of founders don't want to talk about money, right? Like, I feel like we grew up thinking like you don't talk about money, right? Which I get. But it's one of the things that's like since the beginning for me has been hard, right? Because when I started, I was asking people like, how am I supposed to quit my job? Like, and people were like, "Sis, you got it." And I was like, "No, but with what money?" And they were like, "You just like save up." And I was like, "But how much? Like what?" You know what I mean? Like nobody I wanted somebody to be like, "You need $50,000 if you even want to start. And here's how you save it." And it just drove me crazy because I felt like people were like holding as a secret. It's like, "Bro, I don't want your like bank account information, but we're friends and I like need you to tell me how to do this." And so like it's one of the things that, like, it was a little scary at first, but I'll, like, post my, like, bank account, not the number, but, like, the, like, negative $2,000. It was scary, but I was like, "I gotta share this," and I know people are gonna respond to it because, like, I can't be the first person that doesn't have any money, and, like and I also think people don't want people to look at you like you don't have money, right? Like, everyone wants to, like, feel successful and like feel like you work hard and feel like you make money and like we dress nice, we have a nice house, but I just feel like at the end of the day, like I just have to like live my truth and like I still have nice things and I still dress nice and I still my girls are always going to be the flyest. Like when I tell you they at daycare they are the flyest kids, like that's in my soul. Like that's not going to change, but like my business still has negative $2,000. Do you know what I mean? So I'm still trying to like manage both and I think people can relate to that. Like they can relate to the struggle but like trying to make it work. Yeah, you got to share it all.
Okay, we need to do a founders roundtable, Ashley, like live collab in Atlanta or something. Like we need to make
That'd be
this
dope.
happen and just have a real conversation and just have other founders come out or something because we need to do that. And then like obviously you're very busy, but you have been sharing your amazing messages through your Instagram. And one thing I loved is in the same carousel where you posted, like your appearance, talking to Gail and things like that and sharing your story, you also posted like the bank balance screenshot. And I was like, this is so refreshing to
Oh,
see.
that meant a lot to me to put that in there because I was like, "I need y'all to get it," right? Because
Yeah.
Dominique said in the beginning, there's high highs, but there are low lows, and I need because people glamorize entrepreneurship. Do you hear me? Like
Yeah.
people like will look at you and be like, "Sis, you are doing it. You are famous. You are on CBS," and like, "Thank you. Like, give me my flowers because I've been working hard." Yes, but like, but I still like when that week is over, like I still have a business problem. I still am trying to like drive new customers and don't have money to put into marketing. So how do you get new customers? And like sales are low. Like it's like, yeah, sales were great for a week, like super grateful. But like I have a business of longevity. Like what is 1 week out of like 7 years? And nobody wants to look at it like that, right? Nobody like my bank account was negative. Now it's not, right? Because I made all this money. But like what about all the people that I couldn't pay for months? Like, what about all the vendors that I had to like literally ignore their emails because I was like, I don't know what to tell them. I don't have their $5,000 for jars that I bought. Just don't have it. So like the money that came in, it at the same vein went right out to pay all the people that I like owed money to. Like, you know what I mean? I just need people to get that there are two sides to it. They have to understand that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we were talking before about how, sometimes you might think you can't reach out to a certain founder because their business seems too big or too successful, but you just never know. Like that just might be us assuming, as we do as a society, that if someone has a lot of press or they have like hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram, they must also be very financially successful or stable in their business. And they might just be starting out. Like they may just, be as early on as you, maybe going through the same struggles and might just not be showing it. Like you might be on the same page. So my point is one, for anyone listening, like don't be afraid to reach out to anyone that you may like look up to because they're super big and successful online. And two, like you just never know what people are going
Yeah.
through. And I'm so glad we're having this conversation because like conversations like these are literally the reason that we started this podcast. Like we want every conversation that we put out to be as real as this because then it just brings so much comfort.
Because I'll say, like, all the stuff on social that I see brings me like, if it wasn't for all the mom stuff that was being shared about, like, motherhood being hard and, like, postpartum being okay and, like, like, I can't look at my kids today. I can't stand them. But then like tomorrow I love them so much I want to burst. Like that stuff helps me though. Like be like, "Oh my god, it's okay that I feel this." Like I don't have to like hide it, or I don't have to be like, "Is something wrong with me?" Like that stuff helps. And so like that again, that's why I share, right? Because if other entrepreneurs are seeing this and it's helping them be like, "Oh, it's okay that my account's in the negative." Yes, like we all need to feel like it's okay. And I know we don't like rejection, right? So that's a reason why a lot of people don't won't reach out to the bigger brands like you're talking about. But like being an entrepreneur is literal rejection. Like like your whole being is being rejected. And like so you just have to like get over yourself and reach out. And if they don't answer, then they don't answer. Like you're not gonna get a lot of like how dare you reach out to me? What do you think? Like, you know what I mean? They're just not going to answer. But, they're like, I'm calling her out, but like Denise at Partake Cookies, like if you've heard of like Partakes, like Black woman owned like bomb cookies, which I shouldn't be eating. I'm on a diet, but I keep buying these damn lemon cookies. Anyways, but she's like, she seems like she's obviously doing so well and got this investment from Jay-Z and like this huge, like just a success, right? When I tell you I have emailed this woman multiple times about like random questions. Like, I need a marketing company, and clearly your marketing's doing well. Like, who are you using? And she writes right back, and sends the company to me, or sends me, or connects me with someone in her circle, in her team, who's like, oh, my, like this person can help you. She'll share all the info with you, like multiple times. So I say that to say, like, I love her because of that. Like, I will always support her because I will always remember, like, no matter how big her brand is, like, looking back, like, when I was, like, in it, she was sharing, like, the companies she was using and doing all these things. And I think that's huge. And I'm like that. Like, when people, I'm always telling people, like, DM me or email me. Like, it might take a while for me to get back to you, but I'm going to get back to you, and I'm going to share, like, a vendor list with you. I'm going to share, like, a co-packer list, like, whatever I have, whatever resource I'm going to share. Like, you're not my competition. Like, you could sell jam. It's room for all of us, honey. Like, you are not my competition. Like, we're a family. Let's like uplift each other and all get to the top at the same time. So like we can help each other.
Yeah, and side note, I also love Partake, so I don't blame you
Yeah.
for
She's got these
going
new
in
like
mine.
soft lemon cookies. Oh,
What?
oh.
I didn't know that.
Yes, and they're like it comes in like little rows of five. When I tell you I eat a whole row at a time, I'm like, you know what? I just don't even buy them. Just don't even get them because I will crush these cookies. Like they're fire. They are. It's a good
Oh
product.
my gosh. No, that sounds amazing. And speaking of amazing, we both I think Dominique already bought your jam. Mine is like in my cart and I'm about to get it
Nice.
because it all looks
Oh, I didn't know
so
you got yours.
amazing.
Dang it, I'm jealous. I was pissed I wasn't gonna have it
No, no.
before the
No, no,
podcast.
mine's like in my cart. Like I have to like
Oh,
complete
it's
my
in your
order.
cart. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah.
thought you said in
I
your
don't have it
car.
yet.
I was like, well, you
No.
should go out there and
Yeah.
get
I wish it
it.
was in my
No,
car
seriously.
already. No, hopefully soon, but
I was about to drive to our house because I got the because I was like I really wanted to try it. I always love to be able to talk about the
Yeah.
product that we have the founder on, right?
yeah.
So I got the artisan gift set. So
Nice.
it'll be like a few in there that I can try, and I ordered the t-shirt. So
Thank you.
maybe what we'll do, oh yeah, of course. Maybe what we'll do is like kind of take pictures with the shirt. I don't know, we kind of do something cool before we share it online.
I
I think
love
maybe
that. I
meet.
love that. We're
Yeah.
actually we are working with like a social media company, and they're kind of we're basically building like a team of ambassadors, and so these are all like influential people I either know or have worked with over the years, and like sending them a T-shirt and like getting them to film a little story, even like that's just like here's my moment, like that kind of like we have this moment we call when the jar drops, right? And it's kind of like like when you drop a jar of jam and it's like, fuck, this is everywhere. Like it's in the crevices of the, like, I'm in the shit. Like, you know what I mean? And so it's kind of like the moment, like, when did the jar drop for you where you're just like, okay, this is a really tough moment. I don't know how I'm going to get through it. Don't know how I'm going to get past it. And so getting people to kind of film and share about like that moment when the jar dropped for them, and how they either navigated it or how they're currently navigating it.
We have a quote of yours talking about one of your jar drops, being in this place where you were like, I cannot sell like this batch. It's not up to quality, it's not up to standards. And you were talking about how you lost $80,000 and you were like, somehow you were like focused on moving forward. So I would love if you could just talk about that and how it felt, to have this batch made and then you were like, this is not Trade Street. Like this is not something that I would put out because like quality matters and like that's, the core of our brand.
Yeah, it felt like shit because it was the first time we decided to scale up, which is like the next step for a business, especially like a CPG brand. As you grow, you like do these manufacturing runs, and we're like, we're going to scale up. So we're not doing runs every like month. We've got like a quarter's worth of inventory, and we're really excited because that takes a lot of stress off when you have inventory. Now you can, sell it instead of like trying to make it, sell it, make it, sell it. So, anyways, we scaled up and it wasn't good, and it was really tough because of that money loss. And so it definitely took a few weeks to kind of like grasp what was happening. It was like, well, can we maybe try to sell it? And we kept going back and forth, and like at the end of the day, I just like I couldn't do it, right? Like talk about when something doesn't sit right with your spirit, and like I just like I couldn't do it. Like I live and breathe this shit. Like I'm not just like pretending to be honest. Like I'm honest. Like I'm not about to take your money if it's not right. Like I'm just not, because I feel like that's gonna come back to me. You know what I mean? Like if you put good shit out, good shit comes back. That's how it works. So I couldn't sell it. And so it was really tough. But I think, like, for me, the most memorable part of that is the way I felt when something kinda hit me about moving on. I've never had that before. Like, everyone on my team was just like, "Are you gonna, like, litigate and, like, try to get your money back?" And, like, I don't know. All I could think was, like, I just remember in this moment not being that, like, sad. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, I just remember not being that sad. Like, obviously, I was super disappointed, but I was just like, "What's next?" And that's what I talk about. I was like, that was a really good example of not getting too low, right? And trust me, there's so many times I've gotten very low, but this is a one good example where I didn't. All I could think of was like, "How can we move on?" And I felt like everyone was kind of in my ear, like, about trying to make right of that situation, and it wasn't a focus. Like, I just felt like in my heart, in my soul, something was not something, God was pushing me to, like, move forward. And I was just so grateful for that in that moment because, 1, we had to move forward, and 2, it's just, like, not like me to let something go, right? It's not like me. Like, I'd be like, "Y'all owe me money, like, what we about to do?" Like, but like, who wants to, like, go through, like, I don't know, suing someone or, like, fighting with someone? Like, I don't have the energy to fight with somebody. Like, I only got about this much energy left. I got 2 kids, a house, bills. I only got about this much left. So let's put this little bit into finding a new manufacturer and, like, making the next batch of jam. Actually, that whole moment is what led me here today. Like, it led the business into some turmoil because, like, we didn't have product for months and months while I hit the ground running looking for a new manufacturer, and that takes time, right? It's like a new relationship, like, and you gotta vet people, and so I went months without product, and over time, we lost customers, we lost wholesale customers, we had some big accounts that we lost. Like, some you can try to recoup, but some big companies are just like, "You're just another notch on the list." They'll move on, right? It's just been it was like a downward spiral since then, like revenue-wise, everything, and so that's what we've been trying to recoup. It's like rebuild from that. We lost a lot of momentum. We had tons of press, and, like, people will continue to write about you, the same press. Like, if they put you on one holiday list, then the next, Black History Month, they're gonna put you on that list again. They're gonna keep, like, going back, and I'm sure there are people that went back and went to our site and was like, "Oh, they don't have product, cool," and didn't write about us, right? And then maybe never wrote about us again. So all that kind of like brought us to here, like the low moment of where the business is at. But I'm grateful that I was able to kind of like push through mentally through that problem, because it's just like live to fight another day, right? There's gonna be another problem around the corner, but at least through that one, I kind of like pushed through a bit.
You being a believer, you just I'm a believer as well. And perhaps at that time it was really that sense of, hey, I'm gonna move forward. Perhaps that was just peace at the time. And God letting you know that He would
It
provide
was peace.
provision. Mm,
Yes. Yes. 100%, because I've never felt that way. And I told you
come
I'm not
on.
that person.
Wow.
Like, I'm like, we gotta
Yep.
make it right. Like, what's going on? For me to be so peaceful in one of the biggest, like, issues we've ever had, like for sure it was God. And like, that's the thing. It's like I've always said that this is God's business and I'm just running it, but like I know it is because this is going to be confusing to people, but certain things over time have been easy. You know what I mean? Certain things have been easy, and there's just no way. Like all this press we've gotten, I've never had a PR team. I've never reached out. We got in the New York Times, every like food magazine, every like non-food. I mean, like name of publications. We've probably been in it. Like how, Sway? Like because God like has continued to push through, and so like even in this time, this is a great example. For 8 months, I've been down and feeling depressed and praying every day and like trying to stay faithful and trying to be uplifted. But God, why am I feeling this way? And then, like, ironically enough, we were trying to get on these like CBS deals and steals. I don't know, they have one on Good Morning America. It's like where they like, you send them your product and like the anchors, like they taste it and they're like, oh, this is good. And then like, you offer a deal and people buy it. You're not on the show, but like, your product's up there. And we were like going back and forth with the CBS team about it because they want the hugest discount, like 50% off. Like what? That kills your margins. Like really, you just have to do it for marketing because you're not going to make money depending on your margins. And so like we're going back and forth and they like came back and they said no. Like they were just like, we're going to move on. And I'm like, we've been talking for like months. Like, what are you talking about? No, like we were like betting on this as like a big driver of revenue to at least get eyes on the brand and help us out of this hole. And they like didn't even give me an explanation. They just were like kind of like we're not interested. And I was just like so bummed. You know what I mean? I was like, you know how people are, but it's like to ghost you out, whatever. I was mad. Literally a week later, someone calls and they're like, like, hey, we're interested in having you on the CBS show. And I was like, what? On the show? Are you talking about CBS Deals and Steals? They're like, I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm talking about being on the show. And I'm like, okay. And then like I didn't hear from him for like 2 weeks. And then he calls and he's like, are you free on Monday? And I'm like, yeah, I'm free from like 12 to 5 for a call. He's like, no, to come on, be on the show with Gail. And this was Friday. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? Talk about God though. We trying to get like when I tell you God will do bigger things, like he's closing this door over here, baby, because it's small. You think it's too small? We trying to get on CBS Deals and Steals and for a discount, not even make any money. And he's like, that's not for you because I need you to meet Gail King herself, and then she's gonna open some other doors. Like that, what do you mean? Like, how is that not, a higher power kind of looking out for you? Because I have no connections. Like I mean, that just happened. And look at the timing, right? That could have happened when we were doing well. We've been grateful, but it happened when we needed the most. Like when we needed the most, when my soul needs an uplift and some positivity and a win. I needed a win. I know that's like a tangent, but this is God's business and he always makes a way. And when we were doing the worst ever, I was like, if he wants me to like shut this business down, he gonna have to show me. He gonna have to show, I mean, he gonna have to come stand right here in front of me and be like, cut it off. Like, because if he just keeps making it hard, but then helps me find a way, then I'm like, I'm gonna take the way. You know what I mean? So it's like really hard, but then CBS happens. And then it's like really hard, but then like holidays comes and you get featured everywhere. Like he gonna have to just flat out just like shut it down if he wants me to go do something else.
Ugh, I loved every bit of that. Talk about when the jam drop story,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So yes, just amazing, and I think it's just a beautiful story of faith and reliance, right, on his abilities. So what has life looked like for you? This all just happened within the last week,
yeah.
right? So with the power of social media, what does life look like for you in this past week after meeting Gail King?
It's been kind of crazy. A lot more messages and DMs than normal. Yeah. I still haven't got a viral video though. I'm trying to get something to go viral. Like I want these followers. No. I mean I do. But we've gotten way more engagement on things than we've ever gotten. People engage with these recipes, right? These videos. And the funny thing is, this social media company we're working with, they encouraged me to do these videos. I didn't want to do these videos. Like, I'll share, but like, I'm not getting on camera and crying. Like, what do you mean? That's just not me. But like, I'll share. And they were just like, you got to just like set up the camera for like 15 minutes and just go. And I just start unloading, and then next thing you know, they're like, it's like a series and like a lot of responses. So it's been great, like because it's just so warming to hear people like one uplift and be like, sis, I've been following you for like 5 years. Like you got it. Like I mean, over and over again. Like people are just like, you got something different. Like you're gonna, you know what I mean? And like I need to be poured into. I pour into a lot of people and I pour into social and I pour into my kid. Like I need to be poured into. So it's nice to hear these like positive comments, especially from other believers who are just like, sis, you are anointed. Like, you know what I mean? Like just like it's great. And so I love hearing that. And then I also love hearing people say like how much this helped them or like my business isn't doing good and I didn't want to share and now I'm going to. Like you just motivated me that I need to stop hiding. Like real messages like that. We haven't even shared it yet, but I filmed a video just responding to comments. Like responding to the most powerful comments because I just was like, these need to be shared. Like it's really great. So anyway, social media has been a shitstorm since we've posted all this stuff, but keep sharing it. If you love it, keep sharing it. Like these messages need to be like heard and people need to relate and resonate and share their stories and whatever else it's supposed to do in the universe, like just keep passing it along.
Uh, Love it, love it. I just had a few rapid fire questions for you. And I think you just shared really two great tools. My first question was, how can you afford social media as a broke founder?
That is so funny. Shoot your own content and post your own stuff and study and learn and follow a bunch of brands like Partake Cookies and Olipop and all the funky trendy food brands or whoever, and you see what you like, then like start to replicate it. Like you're not copying, but you're like turning it into your voice and but use tools. Canva got me out here thinking I can design somebody's website from scratch. Like, you know what I mean?
Are
Like
those
use
your
the tool.
designs? No, stop,
Honey,
because I was gonna ask you who are you using since you had to let go of your team. It looks so good.
okay, so let me just say this. Yes, I have a social media team now. The only reason I have one
Okay.
now is because I hired them when I had money and I signed a contract. But when I tell you they would have been fired just like everybody else because I have no money. So I just want to be clear. That's the only reason why I have a social media team right now. But they just started like 2 months ago. For the other 6.5 years, I have done everything. Like I created the label for my product, the actual label on the jar. Like I built the designs on the website, like any graphics you see on Instagram, any photography or videography you see, like I had no choice. And like when I was early on, I was like, I know what I want my brand to look like. I know what I want my social to look like. Like I wanted to be popping. You got to like fake it till you make it, right? And so I was like, it needs to look great. My website needs to look great before it even is great on the back end. So I just like learned how to do all that stuff. You got to be able, now you're going to have to outsource somewhere, right? You can't be good at everything, so like you got to figure out where your strengths are. But for me, I like to create and I like to design, and it's something that comes natural to me, so I've just tried to learn that and hone in on it, and again use tools like Canva that do the work for you, and just like maximize.
Ooh, I love it. Okay, that's good. What do you wish you knew about scaling before you scaled?
Ah, about scaling, I mean, th- that you probably need more money than you think you need. I guess that's probably the biggest one. You need more money than you think you need. Doesn't mean you can't do it. But I wish I would have known that. And I don't know. I run a pretty lean business, but maybe just like being even more lean, like in certain areas, because I know that like as I'm going to scale, I'm going to need more money. Um, Also, I guess I wish I would have known a little bit more about investors, right? It's a whole thing, like taking on investment and diluting your company and all that. Like people throw around those terms and pretend they know everything. Like I don't know half the shit about it, and so I wish I would have known a little bit more. And I'm still learning, but I think before you take on investors or think you need to take on money from people, just like understanding, reading up on it a little bit more before you actually do it.
Last one. If you had to looking back at young Ashley and all that you've been through up until this point, what would be like one piece of advice if you had to pick? I know that's hard, that you would give her and to all the young people out there who are just getting started.
It would probably be you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect all the time. It's something I said to myself the other, like maybe a couple months ago. I just had like out of nowhere, because I would never say that to myself. I don't think I'm trying to be perfect, but out of nowhere, like a voice said to me, like, you don't have to be perfect. And again, this is when you talk about when you know God is speaking to you, because would never say that to myself. I don't try to be perfect, but when I heard that and I said it, I was like, maybe you are trying to be like not just perfect, but like you're just striving for everything to be perfect, and you have to accept that like you will make these mistakes, but if you tried your fucking best, then like that's all you got, baby girl. And it's so easy to say like try your best, right? But for real, like you have to get to a point where you're just like I tried my best. I tried my best. Like, I know I did. And, like, that is okay because I can't do everything. So I don't know. I think if I could just look back and be like, you don't have to be perfect. Like, you're going to make all these mistakes and you can come back from all of them. Like, it is going to be okay.
That's perfect. No, well, thank you so much. When you talked about earlier about just reaching out to people and you don't know if they're going to respond, this was a shot in the dark. Okay, had no clue. Just followed your journey, and thought you were a really cool brand. So you saying yes means a lot to us because it's also confirmation we're going in the right direction. It's someone who we can learn from. It's just very encouraging, I think, to your soul to just feel that someone is open to whatever you are doing, right, along this journey. So for us to say thank you, I don't think it really shares a magnitude of our appreciation for you coming on today. Um, and talk about timing, right? When everything going on, you stop by to share your time with us. So we thank you so much, and we'll do everything we can to share your journey on our platform as well.
Thank you guys so much. That's beautiful. Thank you.